Fast Casual. I'm your host, Miranda Copjec, where we dive deep into the strategies and innovations shaping the restaurant industry. Today, I'm excited to have Mark Hauder, Regional Director of Operations at Hoogland Restaurant Group, with us today. With over 115 locations nationwide, they are the largest franchisee of Marco's Pizza. We're going to explore Mark's insights on leadership, scaling operations, and his journey to his current role. Mark, great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Miranda. How are you?
I'm great, and I feel like
Yeah.
I cannot do your incredible career journey
Yeah.
justice. So I want to, let you kind of introduce yourself to the listeners, kind of walk us through, everything that you've been through and has gotten you to this position today.
Yeah. I like to tell people I probably grew up in a restaurant. My mom was a restaurant manager. Spent time doing all kinds of different things for her throughout. I think I was a dishwasher at the Elks Club when I was 12 and worked in a KFC making chicken when I was in high school and things like that. My last 30 years of journey has mainly been in the pizza delivery segment. Started with Pizza Hut when it was, before it was young. It wasn't even, it was still PepsiCo. Was a GM for them and took an opportunity to work for Papa John's and spent over 21 years with Papa John's, working my way from a DM up through the ranks to the operating partner for a group. Went to work back for Pizza Hut for a short period of time through COVID. That was my COVID era. Had stores in the Midwest, in Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota. Which was interesting to go into that as a pizza delivery guy, and I had gone back into the dine-in side of Pizza Hut and spent COVID working through that. So that was fun. I was probably not liked in a lot of places. I got rid of buffets and literally took the old buffets out of the stores and tossed them out the back doors. So that wasn't something people appreciated in a small town, I guess. But so those are gone. I had a little kind of a little side job for a little bit in a brew pub concept, and then joined Hoogland spring 2023. Ran their Upper Midwest division till May of this year, and then this year came to the Southwest and cover Omaha down through Dallas. So that's where I am. But basically, the last 30
Wow.
years, pizza delivery. So
I love it. I mean, expertise in
yeah,
pizza. And I feel like that is where I would love my expertise to
wouldn't
be.
it be?
I'm originally from New York, so like I have a lot of opinions on pizza.
Yep.
Um, so and as I'm sure you do too. And I feel like you are probably the expert. And I need to touch on
Yes.
this. No buffets. Explain.
Well, it was COVID, and it was Pizza Hut was changing at the time. I think we were trying to figure out if we could stand alone without it. The delivery side has always been the growth side. Do people really go and dine in pizza anymore? And if they do, is it artisan style? Are we getting into full bars? Things like that. So it became down. And the problem with buffet is I think people think a lot of food for really cheap. And, you can only get so low on that price. And you got to balance your costs on it. And at the end of the day, it just didn't seem workable. It wasn't what everybody needed at the time, in my opinion. Plus from COVID, I mean, you couldn't, the sneeze guard only controlled so much, I guess, at that time. I don't know. It was interesting. So, we had to shut them down was part of it. And then I just saw it as an opportunity to kind of change it and see if we could do something different. We tried started installing self-serve Pepsi machines in the dining rooms. Tried to go with some order at counter things and stuff like that. So, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, probably the core Pizza Hut customer, that's not what they want. They still want table service. They still want, I mean, we used to get a lot of requests for pitchers of pop still. Like that was the thing, like a pan pizza and a pitcher of pop.
There's so many operational, I don't know if nuances is the right word, but so many operational aspects to a restaurant that I don't have that mindset, that I don't
Yeah.
think about. And kind of hearing this kind of sparked something, but I was meeting with an owner operator of a McDonald's a while back, just chatting with them. Have a relationship with them, and we're at dinner and we're talking about uh the sauce packets, and I'm like, I really want McDonald's just to get, like,
Right.
why are they not throwing in the extra barbecue, the extra sweet and sour? And he walked me through the
Oh
entire
yeah.
math behind the why either they need to raise the cost of a Big Mac slightly, so that they can offset the costs of the sauces, or why you sometimes only have two
Yeah.
sauce policy rule. And I was like
Yeah.
mind blown. And I've never thought about the operational strategies behind the thought behind, like, people dining in for pizza, and what how that's evolving and how that's changing. Because I think about, like, that's something that would have never crossed my mind. And I guess, like, what are you guys in the pizza world seeing, like, around that, like people dining in or taking out for pizza, and like kind of the operations behind that?
So a couple parts on that. One, I grew up. I really feel like I grew up at Papa John's was my core. 20 some odd years, and they were really the forefront of the garlic sauce cup, right? Like if you know Papa John's, you get that sauce cup. Like we had all the sauces, and it was amazing because to your point about the like extra packets, we would get so many requests. Like everybody thinks they're free or something. I don't know, and it's like they're not free. They cost
I
us money. We go through hundreds of these things a week per unit. Was and everybody's like, oh, just grab a couple extra, and people would actually figure it out over time that they could, like, well, if I wait till they ring me up, then I'll just ask for a couple and they'll just grab them because they don't cost that much. It's just like, oh, man, you guys are wearing me out. But that was always the issue. We see it. We have sauces here. Honestly, Marco's has a sauce that's it's the jalapeno ranch sauce, and if you ever get an opportunity, it's very, very good. It's probably one of my favorite, and I'm not even a hot, spicy eater. So, but just I've seen it evolve. When I was getting into Pizza Hut in the early '90s, we were already going into that. The Red Roof was starting to go on its own little adventure somewhere else. I mean, the store I ran was a Delco in Bettendorf, Iowa, and the dine-in Red Roof that was in the town, it was in the same trade area and everything. It went away. They closed it after I had been at my store for probably about 3 or 4 months. They shut it down. They just weren't profitable anymore. It wasn't, people weren't going to dine in. It was buffet only. You don't make a lot of money on that. So unless you do a lot of it, was the problem. So, but the industry's changed so much from a Delco based delivery carry out only, where you used to be 70-80% delivery, 20-30% carry out, and now we're seeing these 50-50s and the 60-40s and even more, and you mix in third party, and it's just every day it's changing, and every store is a little bit different. We tend to, where I'm at currently, we've always led a little bit more to a higher carry-out side, but that came from the parent company of Hoogland was the Family Video movie chain, and the whole idea was they were all connected. All their Marcos were connected to the old video rental stores. So it was, you come in and you buy a pizza and you get a free video rental. And there were windows that were cut into the side of the Marcos that went into the Family Video, so you could actually come up in Family Video and order from Marcos and stuff. So they built a very strong carry-out base back in those early days that way. So, but I mean, you go to different types of stores, different communities, and you see different, large campus stores are always heavy delivery, going to dorms and things. College kids didn't want to come out. So it just depended days of the week. It used to be it would snow and all hands on deck and everybody's running to deliver pizzas. Nowadays, it's not quite the same in some areas. So everybody thinks you're closed because of the connection to third party. All your third party apps, you go on, you're like, oh, I got to order DoorDash, and you go on to DoorDash, and oh, Marco's is closed, Papa John's is closed. Well, we're not really closed. They're just the dashers aren't out, so we still may be open, but it tells people we're closed. So uh,
That's actually really interesting because there'll be some like that is definitely I live in Philadelphia, so like there's obviously we get snow in the winter, and I'll be snowed in, and I'll check my app and it's like, well, the store's, and I'm like,
yeah,
wait, why are you guys
right.
closed? I'm
Should be open.
like, and then,
Yeah.
but then I don't even think about it. Like, and I guess like to transition that to kind of segues me into my first question is how do you as like an operations leader balance those nuances of day-to-day operations with strategic long-term growth planning?
I mean, some of that's going to come in. Yeah, you just every day, whatever you're doing every day will factor into long term. And what I mean by that is if you've got to find those little nuances that happen. If it's a tech problem, is it a product issue? Is it a hiring issue? Because if it happens today and you don't kind of correct it or figure it out, or technology is weird because if you don't adopt the technology, you're never going to grow your business in today's environment. Like if you fought the third party, you weren't going to grow your business as fast because the third party is taking pizza delivery to a different state. Like it's in a whole different functionality now, and just the way that everything we do, like, and I'm still from that era of, I mean, I used to literally use a pen and paper to write down somebody's order and take it. And now it's all, done on a phone and it's like click done. And, the technology, that side of that, if we didn't embrace that, we wouldn't be where we were. And that's what you're seeing with a lot of the pizza companies or any restaurant company. I mean, we saw this during COVID was the folks that didn't, and this is why I think, somebody like the pizza business itself did so well during COVID was it was designed for that specifically. No contact really. All the ordering systems were there. The carry out system was built in. We had the packaging. I mean, I felt bad. There were small town, mom and pop restaurants, and they're running around trying to find a container to put their meal in because they've never sent to go meals home. And we had everything all done. It was literally all we did was lock our lobby door and send them to the drive-thru or what have you. So yeah, we already had all the systems. We had to tweak a couple things, and we learned that every day. But I'll give you a good one. So years ago, everybody got on this big hot to trot on these heated hot bags. You remember those at some point? Yeah. So everybody
Yes.
made this thing, and I just remember we're sitting there, and I'm like, but if we deliver the pizza in less than 30 minutes, what's it matter that I have a heated bag or not? You know what I mean? Like that's how we used to think was, well, we're delivering them so fast. The functionality, it didn't really do anything for us. They were more cumbersome than anything. Like you actually had to use more of them because the heating core took away the space for a pizza in the bag and things like that. So, but, uh, you know, yeah, it heated up the box they handed the person. I don't know if it really helped the pizza. I mean, yeah, maybe if you were delivering and it was taking you a while, it was something. But that was a big thing. When was that? That was early to mid 2000s. Everybody had to have a heated bag, and everybody was making a big deal and doing commercials about it and all this other stuff. And you're just sitting there going. Now we look back on it and go, does anybody use that technology anymore? I don't think so. I don't think it's a thing. So, yeah. Oh, I remember me personally going around and then installing all the equipment in all my stores to set them up so that we could use them. So, yeah,
So I'm assuming heated bag is your least favorite tech
yeah,
or
that was one that we didn't
innovation
need.
for
So,
the space. What's your favorite? I guess like through the years. I've actually, yeah, I don't think I've ever asked that question before, and
online ordering.
I'm very interested. online
Yeah, and
ordering.
there's nights I'll still be in a store making pizzas, and the phone's just ringing off the hook, and I'm just thinking to myself, don't they know like www dot? It's like, why are you letting the phone ring? It's like if I'm calling and it's ringing 3 or 4 times, just go online. I have a story about that. My wife and I, we were down in Orlando, and it was during COVID. It was after things had started opening after COVID. But it was like when all the places were short staffed. And I still remember we couldn't get into one restaurant, and there was a pizza place across the street. And I said, call an order from them. And I'm trying to drive to the hotel, and she's literally on her phone, like calling the store. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she goes, well, I'm calling them. And I go, they're short staffed. Don't call them. Just put the order in so they can make it. Like, take that step away from them. They don't need that extra phone call right now. She's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, come on, you've been with me how long on this one? So, it's just, but that side of the business, when it's just so clean to us. I mean, yeah, there's financial parts of that our ticket average is always higher online. The consumer really gets to look at it. We give them the better deals online. All those other, right.
Starting to add.
What's that?
You're on the
I'll
app and
just
you're like,
add this.
oh,
Yeah, like,
I'll add
yeah.
that cake, whatever it may
You're
be,
going to
or
Atlantic City,
whatever.
just keep adding stuff. It's like just keep spinning the wheels. Yeah, so that's I really like that whole way that invented, and I'm so old and been in this business so long. Our first online ordering was literally we put fax machines in the stores, and you would go to whatever WW site it was, and some guy there would literally take it, type it up on a piece of paper, and fax you the order, and that was the online order.
I was actually thinking about this the other day. I don't know what jogged this in my mind, but I was probably on DoorDash or Uber Eats or Grubhub, one of the
Yeah.
many that I have on my phone, probably every single app that there is. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't remember when it pivoted from like me picking up the phone and calling either my local pizza place, my local, Chinese food place, a sushi restaurant, whatever it may be, and ordering, Friday night takeout with my family, placing that order and having that their local delivery driver bring it to my door. You give the tip and all of that. And I cannot remember when I pivoted to like the apps, and when that, like, I don't remember the last time. Like, when was the last time I picked up the phone and called the local place and had their person come and deliver, the food for me? And I can't remember that when that switch happened. And that's always something I was trying to think back in my head, because I remember just being a kid and like, Friday night, either ordering a pizza in or Chinese food in with my family, and being like, they come to the door, and I cannot remember when that switch happened. And the third party and online delivering really
I
took over.
kind of remember, I can't put my finger on the year that it came, but we started hearing the rumblings, like, here's what's going on. So a bunch of my DMs, district managers, and we got together and we're like, hey, let's just all sign up as dashers and take a couple so we can explain it to our the drivers and the managers, so they understand what's going on here. And this is the infancy of kind of what goes on. And this is after, like, I remember listening to a podcast of Tony talk about how he rolled out DoorDash. And he talks about, like, yeah, we didn't know what we were doing, so we went and delivered pizzas at Domino's to figure out how food delivery worked. Like, so that's how we all, the basic of, oh, well, we'll just go use it. We'll just go do it. And we went and did it. And I still remember this one of the district managers was like, man, he goes, 1 minute I was delivering it from Walmart and putting the stuff away in some guy's cabinet. And then the next thing I knew, I was delivering some omelet from IHOP, and then I was getting yelled at because they didn't have cheese sauce and all this stuff. And I'm like, this kind of sounds like odd to me. And they've grown the business from there. But we took it, but where I took it then was, and I learned a long time ago, when you want to know about technology, you go to that younger generation. And I don't mean, your 8-year-old kids sometimes, but I went to a couple of our college campus stores and I just said, like, hey, do any of you guys use DoorDash or any of this stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, all the time. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, I don't know what I want to eat. And I went, and I go, it's a food court. It's literally a food court on an app. And then you kind of get into, then you can kind of get into the parameters of a phone. Now, phones nowadays, I mean, if you have a phone with less than 120 gig or whatever it is, it's not, you're not doing, you have a lot of memory in them, right? But back then, it's like phones were 16 or something. So they didn't have a lot of memory. So was I putting one app that said DoorDash on it, or was I putting, a dozen different food apps on there? So they were doing it from a memory space. They were just putting on the one app, and then they could kind of food court it, was what we figured out. So, and then there's just been that technology side of, you used to have to do tablets, and I think some of the smaller, mom and pop type restaurants have to do their tablet and then type in the orders and things like that. But now everything's integrated in these larger companies and things. So it's so much easier than it used to be from that standpoint. So
I never thought about it that way. Yeah, well, okay, one, absolutely love, and that kind of I'll touch on my next question, but I love that you're, learning
uh,
from the ground, like going to those college campuses, asking those questions. But I never put it together that like the 16 gigabyte phone, which also I was cleaning out my phone the other day. I actually got a notification and it said that I was running out of space. And I was like, oh, how much space do I have on this phone? And you're right, I have like, 120 whatever. And I went through and deleted pictures but now I think about it, I remember my first iPhone, I think I was like in the Apple store. Do I want the 16
oh,
gigabytes or do I want the
I
25? And I
I
remember
just
being like
updated.
to my mom, I need more gigabytes. And she was like, for what though? I was like, I don't know, but I never thought about it that way, that
Uh,
putting it
yeah,
all in one. But would love to hear how like your first experience on the ground working, as a delivery driver in your mom's restaurant, has shaped your operational uh strategy, but also too, how you've taken your on the ground learnings, learning from the people around you, learning from the customer, the employee, and how that has also shaped your operational growth and learnings
yeah.
as
I,
well.
I I always feel like I was really lucky. I always seemed to be in the right spot at the right time to get with the right people. They always talk about having the right mentors and things. And my mom actually ran an ice cream company, like a small like chain called Hillary's Gourmet Ice Cream it was out of Broomall, Pennsylvania, and they had little, all over the Philadelphia area, had little shops and everything. And she started out as their head cake decorator and kind of ended up running the plant. But I met Lou Termini, who was like the founder of the company at the time, and just like getting that story. I always loved the story behind it. Like, how'd you come up with this? Like, what did you do? And just being able to pick their minds. And I still remember, I asked them the one day, I actually went to work for the company. I went to work for one of the franchisees in the suburbs and run one of their parlors for them right out of college. And I remember asking him in training, like, how do I know if somebody makes good ice cream? Like, what is it? And he goes, try their vanilla. And I went, why is that? And he goes, well, if their vanilla is really good, I mean, they're not going to screw anything else up. He goes, but if their vanilla is crap, they're going to screw all kinds of stuff up. And I went, so I actually take that now. It's like, go try a cheese pizza. If you screw up a cheese pizza, you're going to not make a good pizza of any other kind, right? So that was one of the little things I learned. But, obviously my mom was always hands-on, loved what she did. Always had a good job. I mean, she always had a good time doing it, and everywhere she went, everybody called her mom. Like, that's what I always remember. Like, I'd go to restaurants and people would start calling her mom, and they'd be like, "Oh, is that okay?" And I'm like, "I call her mom. So what are you supposed to do?" So she had a good time. She always enjoyed it, and it wasn't really something she ever planned to do. Like, I don't know if people in our industry like really plan to do that. Like, did I grow up? I mean, when I went to college, I thought I was going to be doing international business. I took an international business major with a Spanish minor, and here I am in the Midwest and Southwest making pizza. So nobody really set out to do what we end up doing in the restaurant industry, I think. So, I kind of took all those lessons along the way. Some of the guys that I ended up working for at Papa John's were just great. I got to work for Mark Hauder, Jack Lockery, Tom Donaldson, Mike Rassani. Like, these guys were, like, you just sit there and be a sponge. They were partners with Frank Carney, who was one of the Carney brothers that founded Pizza. I was having dinner. I just, I'm the 28-year-old kid in the room, and I just got to sit at the table. And I heard, Frank tell the story about how they named it Pizza Hut, like across the table from the guy. And it's just, you just kind of happen to be in there, So, I got to have some great interaction. Papa John's was a great learning experience from that standpoint. If you're a sponge, and people used to always ask me, like, well, how do you get to be you? And I'm like, well, see that guy, that's my boss, and whatever he tells me to do, I just go do it. I don't question it. I just went and did it. And then I tried to do other stuff. So I tried to make myself, even though we are all replaceable at some point in time, I always tried to make myself irreplaceable, was how I always thought about it. So
I love that. I'm in South Philly, hosting from a basement in South Philadelphia. But I will say there is a Tremonti Brothers, literally probably 3 blocks down the street. I'm right in the Italian market, and I'm going to use that ice cream story, because one thing when chatting with operational leaders and hospitality leaders, HR leaders, the biggest theme that I'm continuously hearing is don't overcomplicate it. Don't overcomplicate. And I think that's, our listeners listening in, individuals that are either opening up their first location, are either looking to scale from 5 locations to 15 and 15 to 40 or whatever it may be. As the processes begin to change with your growth and your operations begin to change with your growth, the one thing that I feel like has been a common piece of advice that I've heard from, hospitality leaders is don't overcomplicate it. And I think that goes right back to you can't make good vanilla ice cream, then you can't make the more, in-depth flavors. And if you can't make a good cheese pizza, I'm not going to trust you to make a good pepperoni pizza.
Well, if you could go back in time and look at the menus that were done. We used to do a promotion. The Pizza Huts that I worked for during COVID, he was a second generation franchisee. So, great stories. First store they opened in Carroll, Iowa in 1972. And the sign still stands in front of the store. Now it's been replaced. The top part has been replaced, but the bottom and everything's still the same thing. Well, Frank couldn't. He was. They wanted $500 in 1972 to dig the hole, and Frank was like, "Screw that! I'm going to get the shovel." And he dug the hole himself, and the sign still stands there. But that's where one of those things where you're kind of like, "Where's my money best suited in this business?" But you kind of learn those lessons as you go, and not doing too much. But we go back and we do this. We would do. It was called the anniversary sales. And they would go back, and we found the menus from the 70s. And we would literally have a couple days where we would just throw it back to the 70s for pricing. So you'd come in and get a supreme pizza for $3.50 or whatever it was. Hoagies were 99 cents or something. So we did all that. But it was funny because the one day somebody was like, well, the customer wants all these crusts. And I go, well, this is 1976 Pizza Hut. There was thin crust. That was it. I don't know if a lot of people realize it, but the original crust at Pizza Hut was their thin crust, was what they used. Yeah, so it was I'm they didn't have no hand tossed, or pan didn't come around until 85, I think it was, something like that. So it was we're not doing pan dough, so we're going to have all thin crust. And there was nothing fancy about it. So, and it was their menu used to be printed on the placemat. And it was literally just kind of sizes of pizza. I still remember Papa John's was that way in the early days. It was very simple. John fought wanting to add anything to the menu. And when I started, I tell people there were 3 specialty pizzas. It was the works, the all meat, and the veggie. And then we had 3 sizes of dough, I think it was, breadsticks and cheese sticks. And then we had cans of Coke and 6 packs of Coke. I'm like, you didn't have to do much. Like, you didn't have to train. Like, training was super easy. There wasn't a lot to remember on the menu. It was very, very basic. And that's always good for retention. It's really tough nowadays. Everybody wants the moon, but you don't realize, like, all of that adds, all the numbers, we talk about just the number of SKUs you have in the restaurant. Like, the number, like, I don't know if I could work in a coffee shop is how I try to present it to people. Like, I listen to people, I'm in there going, yeah, I just need a medium black. That's it. And people are like, I'm like, maybe throw an extra shot of espresso in it for me. I don't know. Depends on the day. But people are in there ordering all these different concoctions that I'm like, well, you wonder why. One of the most traumatic things that I feel ever happened in the pizza industry was in 2010, I think it was, we released the $10 any. And
Okay.
Pizza Hut released it first. Sales took off. Everybody followed. And at first, it was just like people were ordering like one, just like well, let's test the water. Let me get a pepperoni sausage. Maybe I'll get, a sausage, mushroom, onion. And then all of a sudden, they're like, wait, I can get a deluxe or a supreme or a works pizza for the same $10. Well, then all of a sudden, it went to the next level where, well, wait, I can get the supreme and I can take these 3 toppings off of it on this side and then add 3 toppings. So all of a sudden, you had these I still remember the monitors at the make lines. You couldn't even read. You'd have to print the ticket out because you couldn't read all of the modifications to the pizzas. There'd be so many, and then you get complaints back from the customer, and they're like, "Yeah, I ordered this pizza," and it's like, "Yeah, I get the customer's always right. Like, don't ever." It's like you just took and what people don't realize is when a menu item's created, it's created on a certain flavor profile. And it's balanced off of the topping portions. 1, that it's going to bake correctly. 2, that it's going to have the right flavor profile. Like, these have been, like, we took that pizza and we put it in front of people and had them taste it and make sure they tasted it. And it works. So when you go and you make all these modifications, it doesn't work out. It's like it doesn't taste right. So now you're telling me that the pizza doesn't taste right. Well, is it really the pizza or is it? Yeah. So there was like that. It just kind of went. Well, I got the wrong pizza. Well, you made 7 changes to it, and then we expected the 20-year-old kid to like look at that pizza that has no green peppers on half and pick that one out compared to the one that has green. I mean, it was kind of one of those. I don't know. My opinion was it was kind of it was great for sales and building and all that at that time, but did it do anything long term? And unfortunately, I think it set the price, kind of like what Domino's did. Domino's beat that 30-minute guarantee into everybody's head, right? That it should take 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. So everybody defaults to 30 minutes. It doesn't matter anymore. It's 30 minutes.
Doesn't
30
matter. I
minutes.
always
I've got
think
30
30
minutes.
minutes.
I just ordered a pizza. I just took a pizza out of the freezer and I put it in the oven. It should be ready in 30 minutes. Like, that's kind of the mindset now. So I just think that you can overcome, because then we set the price. Like, all of a sudden everybody's like, well, why is it any more than $10? And that was always the issue coming out. Like, that took a while to come out of. And that's something we learned coming out of that. In the group that I had at that time, we always set timelines on something. We always had an exit for something. We could always stair step out of an offer depending on what it was. So, if you ran, like, we'd take a college campus store, we'd run a welcome back deal for the college students when they came back. Let's say it was a large one topping, $5.99. Well, we'd run it and we'd say through the end of September or August or September or something along those lines. So they knew it was like only so long. Like, we're going to do this for so long. And if you don't, and they're open-ended, like, people just keep going forever with the deal. And that's kind of what happened. I knew that there were people that took the $10 any and they made their entire menu Like, okay, if you get a pizza with up to 3 toppings, it's $10. Anything with more than 3 toppings is $12. Like they tried to simplify the menu that way, but I don't know. It was a really weird scenario. It took a while to like kind of work out of. And the industry's like you get stuck in certain segments from time to time, whether they're priced, like the 555 deal at Domino's. Like everybody was chasing the 555 deal. Everybody had to try to do something like that. And Little Caesars got a second wind in 2007 through 9 because of the economy that was going down, and like they were opening stores again at that time, and the $5 holler was like the great thing at the time, right? Everybody's like, oh, $5 pizza, let's run out. So then all the competitors are like, we're losing all our business. And I, you do still have to do what you do very well to keep your base customers. You're always going to have those, what I always refer to as cheap eaters. They're always going to flit around to whatever deal. They don't have any loyalty. They're jumping around to whatever deal. But your base is where you're going. Like, you got to take care of your base. So.
I think that, yeah, I was going to say, like, I was going to ask you, like, what was one of your biggest takeaways from all of your experience, but it sounds like sticking true to your base, to what works. And I think a few things that I took away are it definitely a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, I'm probably that person that like goes and I'm like, ooh, that would be really good if I added this and this. And like, I'm never going to do that again, because the operations behind the food itself was a science. And here I am changing the science, and I'm making it worse or embarrassing myself. So that's a really good learning. Second learning I learned is I loved the coffee shop analogy, because now I was thinking about it, and whenever I go to Starbucks, I never put this in my head, but my boyfriend's always like, order for me. And I'm like, no, like you can, you know what you like. And he's like, now there he is. He's like the iced caramel macchiato venti. And he's like,
That's
it's too much of a mouthful.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. But yeah, like I feel like there's so many great fun learnings around the history of pizza and the history of operations regarding pizza, but even taking it one step further, because obviously our conversations today were very much centered around pizza. And I feel like I need to tell our team we got to change the episode theme to the history and evolution of pizza. But there's so much that I feel like just goes with every day to day. And even outside of pizza, whether somebody listening in and they own and operate McDonald's, or they own and operate like a Michelin star concept, whatever that may be, like it's sticking to the basics, sticking to your base, knowing what works, and not overcomplicating it.
We actually just, before our call, I had a regional call with all of our GMs, and we literally went over banking procedures again with them. We went over uniform standards. We discussed product quality. Like, that's what we do. We don't change that. You have to, like, this is our image. This is what we should look like. And one of my big pet peeves right now is, just because COVID happened doesn't mean that we should wear sweatpants and Crocs. You know what I mean? Like, I wear them at home, but you're not wearing them at work. It actually bothers me on an airplane too, but that's just my personal. I mean, my mom.
My dad says that too. My dad's going to listen. My dad is a big listener of this podcast, and he's always, whenever we go to the airport, he wears his blazer. He's dressed like nice. And then my sister and I look like we just like rolled out of bed. And
my kids will do that. They'll show up at places with Crocs on and their socks tucked into their sweatpants. And I'm just like, what were you doing? But I was the generation that my mom made me wear a suit and a tie on the airplane to go visit my grandparents when I was like 5 years old. And so you just like, I don't know. I mean, it just kind of like you go in and you have to have high standards for yourself and expectations. One of the rules I've always followed, and I asked, it was a guy that used to make the pizzas at Papa John's in the late 90s. His name was David Knoll, and he actually did my training when I went there. And I just happened to, he was teaching the class that I was in, and we're kind of going, and I remember saying like, hey, David, I've been a GM for the last few years at Pizza Hut. I'm going to Papa John's. I'm going to be a DM. Like, what should I do? Like, when I go to the store, what's the first thing I should do? And he said to me, he goes, look, yeah, you're going to do the normal stuff. You walk up in the parking lot, you look for trash, dirty glass, and all that. He goes, that's normal. He goes, but the first thing you should do is go right to where all the pizzas that are ready are stacked up and start looking at the pizzas. Because those are the pizzas that the customers were going to get sent if you weren't there. The employees were good with sending those out. So go look at those first and see what they were going to send out. So, I mean, that's like one of the first things I do still to this day. Actually, what I do to this day is I order online before I get to the store. And I make up different names. So it started as Sam Champion. And now I currently either use street names, somebody that's on the radio when I'm pulling up, or a car dealership name. So, but that's what happens. I pull up, and there's already a pizza made. They don't know it's mine, and I get to see what they were going to send to the customer. So,
I
yeah,
love that. I do.
yeah,
I really love that. Um, I mean, I could talk
yes,
for hours about
yeah,
this, and this is, I mean, this has been really incredible. Um,
yeah.
Thank you so much,
Well,
Mark,
thank you.
for joining and for sharing your insights. I would say on driving on operational success and growth, but also on the history of pizza and really how you can learn so much from taking the pizza
Yeah,
day-to-day operations and putting it into your everyday operations, whether you own and operate a hospitality group or a hospitality concept, a food concept,
there's some,
or you don't, and you're just looking, for more
well,
insight into driving operational
yeah,
efficiency. So I really hope our listeners were able to take away just some
oh,
actionable
good.
insights. So be sure to check out Hoogland's work. Stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore what's next in restaurant operations. Until next time, this has been Miranda with Fast Casual. And once again, thank you so much,
Yes,
Mark,
thank
for
you. Have a
joining.
great day.